Yes, people, what we saying? Welcome back to another video presented by the MMA Minute. I'm JamieTheoMMA, and today I'm going to be breaking down Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski 2 coming up this weekend. What an incredible fight. The fact that we've got to this point and we're at this fight, UFC 294, Makhachev versus Volkanovski 2. Obviously, as you all know, I'm sure you all know, the original main event was supposed to be Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira 2, but Charles Oliveira pulled out due to a bad cut to his eye that he sustained in training. An accidental headbutt in sparring it was, and that was just last week. From there, they asked Alexander Volkanovski if he wanted to step in. Of course, the featherweight champion said yes. It's a fight he's been looking to get back since the first one. So yeah, it's just incredible how we've got to this point. Only in MMA could we lose one of the best fights of the year and replace it at just a week out with an even better fight, in my opinion. I do think this is a more competitive fight than what Makhachev versus Oliveira 2 would have been, and I'm far more excited for this fight than I was for Makhachev versus Oliveira 2. I just think that fight would have been very similar to the first one. I think Makhachev would have managed to get Oliveira once again. He probably would have finished him again. But this one was far closer first time round. Let's just talk about the fact that obviously Volkanovski is going to be coming in on late notice. How prepared is he going to be? It's a tough one to say because I remember seeing months and months ago when the Makhachev versus Oliveira 2 fight was announced. I remember seeing Volkanovski come out and say that he's got a few things to deal with, but he's going to make sure that he's ready to fight either Makhachev or Oliveira on this date. So it's something that he said he was getting ready for, whether that's because he wanted to be back up or because he just wanted to be ready just in case something happened. Who knows? Obviously, after he fought Yair Rodriguez, he had to get surgery to his hand. So after that win against Yair at International Fight Week, he had to get surgery on his hand, and that's when he said that he was going to be prepared to fight either one of these two. So he went and got hand surgery. From there, obviously, it's hard to say how prepared he's going to be because how much contact training would he have been doing? Would he have been doing sparring? Would it have been light sparring? Who knows? Who knows how much training he would have been doing? But I'm under the impression that Alexander Volkanovski is someone that is going to stay prepared all year round for anything to happen. So for me, I think he will be prepared, and I'm not really putting too much stock into the fact that it's late notice. I'm really not. I just don't think there's too much that can be put into that. And for someone that isn't really going to be cutting that much weight to get to lightweight, I'm gonna take you to this tweet here by ESPN MMA. Volk revealed that he was £181 when he got the call to fight Makhachev on 11 days' notice. So 11 days ago when he got that call, he was £181. That gives him a week and a half to cut £26. I'm not going to say that that's not a lot because it is. That is a hell of a lot of weight to cut in such a short amount of time, but we see fighters cutting so much more weight than that on fight week as well. Like, to me, that's not a concern. That's not a huge concern to say that he's not prepared or he's not going to come in prepared or not going to come in looking good. To me, that's not a massive concern. But yeah, how do I see this fight going? I really do see this fight being as close as the first one. I really, really do. I know obviously Makhachev's going to be the more prepared, the more in shape. He's been preparing for this date for as long as the fight was booked. His last fight, obviously, he beat Volkanovski. That was his last fight. Volkanovski's fought since then, which is interesting. Volkanovski's been a bit more active since that first fight in February. I don't think it's too much to put into consideration, to be honest, because like I said, that was only February. It's only 8 months ago. It's not to have fought twice in a year for a champion isn't that bad. But it takes me to the point where people clown Leon Edwards for being inactive, but then fighters like Islam Makhachev, he's kind of just been, he won the title and hasn't even talked about a fight since now. Obviously we had Ramadan, so he didn't want to fight during that, which is fair enough. But yeah, how do I see this fight going? I see it being a very close fight again, a fight that will be similar to the first one, I imagine. I do think that in this one, though, we could see a finish either way. I don't think the line should be as stretched as it is. Obviously, it's as stretched as it is because of the fact that Volkanovski's coming in on late notice, but he's a plus 220 underdog, I think it is. Plus 185 at the moment. I think it's more than that. I think he's plus 200. Do I think that there's good value in that? Despite him coming in on late notice, I really do. He's the best fighter in the world, undoubtedly. There's no denying that Alexander Volkanovski is not the pound for pound number one. You can't argue it. You really can't. Makhachev, yeah, fair enough. He is a very good wrestler, very good jiu-jitsu. His striking in the last fight really surprised me. I didn't think he'd look as comfortable striking with Volkanovski as he did. Obviously, that reach advantage, the height advantage, the size advantage, that all played into it. He looked amazing in the clinch against Volkanovski. Every time he wrapped that tie clinch up, he was doing really good work there. I expect him to do that again in this fight. Close the distance with his striking, and then wrap Volkanovski up in some sort of tie clinch where he's going to look for his knees, look for his elbows in the clinch, because that is something he did very, very well last fight, and that's something that I was almost more impressed with that than I was impressed with the fact that how Volkanovski dealt with the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu. I was equally as impressed with both of them. I didn't expect Makhachev to hold his own like he did in the striking, and I didn't expect Volkanovski to hold his own like he did in the jiu-jitsu and the wrestling. So it showed to be a really, really even matchup. A lot of people were kind of split on the decision. A lot of people had it for Volkanovski. A lot of people had it for Makhachev. I thought, on the night, I was pretty convinced that Makhachev won. I was pretty convinced. I thought it was definitely 3 rounds to 2. On second watch, I watched it again without the commentary, and it was just a crowd noise. BC Sport at the time put a video up on their YouTube where they replayed the fight, and it was just the crowd noise, no commentary. And that was a really, really good thing for them to do. It was a really good marketing move for them, kind of. Not marketing, but it was a really good move for them to do that, because people were rewatching it, rescoring it without the biased commentary, or not that the commentary was biased, but not having that commentary in your ear and kind of swaying your points was really good. So I watched it again without the commentary, and I scored it for Volkanovski the second time round. I watched it again after that. So I watched it 3 times, and I went back to thinking that Makhachev won. There was one round where it looked like Volkanovski dropped Makhachev, but on second watch and watching the replays, it wasn't a drop, it was a slip. So I think it was round 2 maybe. I can't remember what round it was, but yeah, that was something that swayed a lot of people's kind of scoring of that particular round. But for me, Makhachev did win that fight. Not comfortably, it was a very close fight. And I think it is fair to say that it could have gone either way. I do think that's fair. People shout robbery at anything these days. It definitely wasn't a robbery. It was a very close fight, and I do think Makhachev fairly won that fight. I see it being quite similar this time round, despite it being late notice. I really do. I can either see a Makhachev submission, and if he does get a submission, I see it being in the latter rounds, probably the championship rounds, because like I said, it's hard to predict how Volkanovski is going to come into this fight, how prepared he's going to be. Is he going to be in really good shape? Is his cardio going to be on point? Is he going to be sharp as he normally is? It's too hard to say yes. It's just too unpredictable to say yes, he is. So I'm going to say that if Makhachev does win this fight, it's going to be by submission this time. He tires him out, gets him into the championship rounds, and then submits him. Failing that, I would go with a Volkanovski knockout. I think he's live for a knockout. I really do. Is he going to try and come out fast, knowing that he might not be able to fight for 5 rounds as sharp as he did last time? Who knows? And if he does that, is he going to be able to catch Makhachev and put him away? We saw in the last fight in round 5, he dropped Makhachev and almost finished him. He could do that again. If he does that early on in this fight, he could finish him, and I really do think there is good value in that. Let me just kind of look at what the let me just find the lines for the kind of the props and stuff for this fight, because it's interesting. It really is. Actually, let me look at Bet365 because that's what I do use. I use Bet365. So this does have props already, which is pretty interesting. It normally doesn't have props till a few days out. So Volkanovski by knockout is plus 500. I think that's good value. I really do. I can't help but think that's good value. And like I said, Makhachev by submission plus 300. I think that's good value. It might be worth looking at Makhachev submission or decision minus 140. Maybe as a parlay piece, just a long shot parlay piece. Who knows? I don't know whether I can see it going to a decision this time. It's so hard to say because of the fact that, like I said, we don't know how Volkanovski's going to look. I'm under the impression that Volkanovski's going to look as good as he usually does. He's a professional. He's one of the most professional fighters in the game. He's going to have been staying in shape, and he's not someone that out of camp gets really out of shape. So for me, I am really, I don't know, man. I like the look of Volkanovski here. I really do. It just feels like one of those moments where the situation's all against him, the whole thing's against him, for him to just pull off the upset. I don't know why. I feel like that's the case, but I just do. And I feel like Volkanovski might get it done against all odds, against the whole... It would just be crazy, it really would, but that's just what I'm leaning with. I'm just leaning with the fact that Volkanovski gets it done. Like I said, I do... If I'm gonna play a prop in this fight, I'm playing either Volkanovski by knockout or I'm playing Makhachev by submission. They're the two things that I'm looking at. How it goes is just, it's so hard to predict because there's so many variables and so many different things to take into consideration. But the only thing that I will say is that's guaranteed is that this is probably fight of the year. I know we've had them fight already this year, which was an amazing fight. But this is probably the biggest fight of the year, and I don't think that's arguable. I think it's by far the biggest fight of the year. You could say Pereira versus Adesanya 3 was one of the biggest, but nah, in my opinion, this is huge, absolutely huge. And I do think Volkanovski gets it done. I do, and I don't know how to explain why I think that, but I really do. But yeah, that's just a quick breakdown, a quick kind of run through of how I see this fight going. Kind of taking a look at a few lines of this fight, a few bets. Like I said, Makhachev by submission's always a good bet. Volkanovski by knockout this time round at that plus 500. I think there could be good value in that. Because like I said, he might come out fast knowing that he might not be able to last 5 rounds this time. Who knows? But the one thing is for sure that it's going to be an absolutely incredible fight. And if you do want to take a look at the rest of the plays for this card from Steve, go ahead and look at the betting guide, which will be linked in the description. Steve will have a lot of plays for this fight. This card, no doubt. So if you do want to take a look at his plays, go and look at the betting guide. And just enjoy the fights, man, because it's going to be an incredible card, an incredible night of fights. But yeah, enjoy the fights, and I'll catch you in the next one.